What is up, y'all? Once again, back on a Tuesday at 10 Eastern, 9 Central. I'm going to say that till the end of time now. I won't be able to help myself. It was made plainly clear to me that the world runs on Eastern Standard Time, right? Not just in America, but all over the world. I love it actually, and I'll poke fun at it because it's fun to do, and I'm a goofball anyway. So so I am Brandon, known as Pop Blender. I am joined here by the magical and mysterious, lovely and talented Matthew Matson. What's happening, buddy?
Another day in the neighborhood, picking up pieces.
Something like that, anyway. Well, as we get started, last week, we kind of jumped into things and um, kind of went through the whole rigmarole of who we are, why are we here, what do we want to do, and all that good stuff. And so I thought, this week we can kind of get to the chat a little bit, see who's here, and then, and really after that, we'll jump right into the topics. So that way we can make it a nice and tight stream and have some fun. What do you say, man?
All right, let's get
All
to it.
right. You feel free to highlight anybody you want. I don't want to double up like I did last week and kind of hide them right after you show
Yep.
them. I will show this one here. My son is in the chat. I love it. He is a supporter and it's awesome and I love it. He helped me with my May Power of the Force video, which was a lot of fun to make. I know it's really long, but man, that was a blast. I had such a blast playing with those toys, and those were my original toys from the 80s, 70s, 80s Star Wars collection. All the figures definitely, the vehicles, they're definitely coming apart, right? They're missing some pieces. But it was a lot of
Yeah.
fun. I really enjoyed it. So I just wanted to say that. I wanted to say hey to Legend Series. His streams are fantastic. He is a really, really awesome dude from what I can tell. And I've enjoyed watching his stuff. We have a special guest that I will highlight. I say special guest. He's probably like, stop it. He's blushing right now. Um,
No,
some
he's special in the other sense of the word too.
Yeah, we all know that, right? That goes unsaid, I think. Um, a punk with toys. That's awesome, dude. Yeah, great YouTube content. Great toy tuber. Really cool dude, and I can't wait
Yeah.
to meet him in June. And so glad to see him here as well. So far so good. Um, we'll get into it. I did have an Easter egg in my Power of the Force video for Lawrence, a punk with toys. And hopefully I think he caught that. Hopefully other people did too if they watched it. It was kind of fun to make.
Nice.
So
That's awesome.
anyway, so far so good. We're going good. I know there's a couple other streams going, so we'll see what happens, but we'll do what we do. How about that?
Yep.
All right. So let's go ahead and throw this up here. The topics du jour. So there's some big news, right? Big news. I'm going to go ahead and throw the banner up right here. You have something to share with us, and I just caught wind of it a little over an hour ago, maybe a little bit more than that, with 3-Star Draw sending me a text message. And this is big news, big news. So I'll let you take the floor on this one, Matthew, and I'll just chime in when I can.
Yeah. So they launched the compendium today, and oh, look at that, just racking up the points right there.
Holy cow!
Yeah. Chris McLeod was covering it, and it hit 750, but is when he ended the stream, and it keeps on going up, and so they're 800 and almost 838, almost 840 at this point. This is the complete Marvel run of G.I. Joe. All 155 main issues, all the special missions, all the individual yearbooks that are different. And there might be some other things in there. I'm not sure just yet, but there's going to be 4 volumes that we know of. and then 2 covers to choose from. You get to choose your own path. You want the GI Joe side or you want the
Yeah.
Cobra side,
Yeah.
and that goes for the entire packages unless you double up on everything. So you get these hardbound books, and then as you go through, there's going to be 4 different covers for each of them. And they kind of have them there. You can kind of see them. And then trading cards, but you don't get both sets. You only get one set. You either get the Joe set or the Cobra set. I hope that they might have a different option for that to get both card sets.
I do like, the ability to choose, obviously, and they're gonna maximize that as much as they can. I did want to say hi to 3-Star Draw, Woody, Triple Deuce, the Figure Addict, Grievance,
Nice.
and War Chest is here. War Chest full of toys is here also. So we got some people joining in, and just to let y'all know, we're going to try to jump right into the topics. I did want to give people a chance to get here, but at the same time, we also want to try to keep on a nice time frame. So I don't want to take too much time away from you, Matthew. So go ahead and give us a little bit more info on this if you can.
Yeah, I mean, it looks great. These are some of the remastered versions, and I believe they're going to put Larry Hama's version of issue 1 that he had the original text that Hawk said in there, and hopefully issue 21 will have the correct color edits to it, along with some of the other issues where they miscolored some things, made it look a little odd. So I think they're going with that. For those that had the IDW hardbacks, they ended around 70 something. I forget. It was volume 7, I believe. And they started making some big errors in where they were putting the books in it and stuff. And I guess people weren't buying them as much as they had hoped because they stopped making them and nobody ever talked about it. But if you have those books, there's a lot of great insider detail into them, notes, all kinds of stuff that they put together for it. But this will be something a little different. It'll have its own special features in it. But they're just going to go through in chronological order. What's that?
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, you can just imagine like everything that this thing is going to have, right? I mean, it's obviously a special collection. I know that some of the early bird stuff has sold out. Some of the ones with the Larry Hama issue card or in
it's a signature plate.
Yeah, the signature plate. Yeah, exactly. I know that they have sold out on, I want to say, the top 4 tiers, maybe higher than that, as far as that special rewards and things like that. Obviously there's different tiers as it goes up, and obviously I think those things have all been unlocked at this point. It would seem
so far
like
we've hit like 4 or 5 stretch goals. They've got some top secret ones that they still have piled up there. I don't know how far they're planning on going. Diana Davis was saying earlier that they caught them off guard. They weren't prepared to not only have this thing fully funded, but I mean, they're going to hit close to 1 million before the end of the day tomorrow, probably, if not over 1 million by tomorrow.
I can only imagine. I mean, it's yeah, come on. Like, that's obviously with what they've just done today, and there's still like 28 days left or whatever they have. It's
and they've also got the digital versions.
Yes, and you can also purchase those, right? Like, I think they've got it set up where if you just want the digital PDF, you can purchase those versions. So let's say you're somebody that wants to read those issues, but you don't have the money to spend. And speaking of money, Woody Triple Deuce, the Figure Addict, says, "What's it cost, fellas?" Well, there's the $30 here, right?
You got the $30 GI Joe, you got the $30 Cobra, and that's only for the PDFs.
Yes.
And the good part about this is that for the printing purposes with those hardbacks, they're already planned it out. They have already set aside the money and time to complete the Marvel run. So they're going to make these 4 volumes. It's going to happen, especially with this amount of funding already in it, because most everybody's not getting volume 1. They're getting the 4 volume set. And then they're going to do softback versions that are going to be regular retail release. The Chuckles one here is the PDF of all 4 volumes. That's the 120. And then for one book, it's 75, whether it's the Cobra side or the Joe side.
Right.
And then it's 300 for the complete box set of all 4 volumes.
Yeah, everything that it comes with there, and all 4, which is, you know, if you're not wanting to go all the way, right, and you really want to try to get, you know, the all 4 volumes, and then maybe that is kind of your way to go, because it gets up there, right? I mean, it I think 300, right, is our, 300, yep. 300. So, and at this point, I think really, see, you can already see that one there, the $300 Snake Eyes with the Hammer book plate, it's already gone. That's how quickly, just in not even a full day, not even 24 hours.
Same with the Cobra one with the book plate.
I mean, that is, let's see, War Chest, and we're going to get to some a little bit of Furiosa, although I do want to get any comments for anybody that has seen it. It is this is Skybound, right? This is a Skybound Kickstarter, you know, program. So that's where you're going to be able to find it. And anybody that would Google it, I think you're pretty much going to be able to see it.
Yeah, right, it pops up right away.
Yeah, you're not gonna have any trouble finding this. And then 3-star draw. You know, he adds the PDF seem really overpriced. Now
you got to think that, you know, for that $30, you're getting 50 issues of G.I. Joe, right? Yes. And then, you know, you pay the 120, you're getting, let's see, 155, 150, 60, 70.
With special missions, and
you're getting 180 some odd issues.
Okay.
For the 120, so that's less than $1 a piece for all of them for digital versions, if you think about it per issue cost. So I understand where 3-star draw is coming from, because if you want to get these, if you, at the very least, let's just say you want the PDFs, okay, you know, you can be creative, man. It's like trying to watch movies and TV without paying for a Disney Plus subscription. You know what I mean? Like, there are ways you can get them, and so I understand that. I do have PDFs of all, and not only those, but a lot of others. However, and I'm probably not unlike anybody else that, you know, maybe collected comics and wants to go back and read those from when you were a kid or whatever. But obviously, this is kind of, you know, an official. If you're a collector, this isn't just having somebody on Facebook Marketplace sell you the PDF files on a digital zip drive, right, or on a digital zip. This is, you know, this is an official product. This is for collectors. That is just, you know, they know that. And so you know what you're in for. If you do want to go this route, you do know what you're in for. But yes, there are other ways to be able to acquire these comics. Well, and back in the day when Comixology was Comixology, certain publishers allowed you to download PDFs of those Comixology comic books, and so I have all of them that way that I downloaded in PDF formats, and I even made my own special version of issue 21 where it combines silent interludes, silence between borders, and the other one. There's 3 of them, and I put all 3 of them together.
Okay.
Oh, Silent Prelude. That was the other
okay, one. Yeah. That's right. Man, Comixology, I actually loved when it came out. I thought it was wonderful.
And it was a great tool, great functionality. Then Amazon took it over and messed it all up. But
that's exactly right. Yep. You know that. As many maybe good things that Amazon has done or does, I guess, from a easy to get standpoint, right? You know, not having to leave your house ever. They sure do have the ability to really screw things up, a la Rings of Power is one of them. But we talked about that last week. And so
and then Punk was also bringing up overpriced you got to pay for what you got to pay for, right? And this is a hardback version of 50 issues of a
Yeah.
comic book
Yeah.
in a hardback, 50 issues. So, you look at Marvel and you're paying 140, $150 for that book. I've got an entire run of 25 issues or whatever it was of Captain America written by Ed Brubaker. And that one was, I think it was 75 when it came out. And that was 25, 26 issues, something like that.
Yeah, it's I mean, I love it. I will say it man, the timing. The
Yeah.
timing. Now, I will give credit to 3 Star Draw on this one because he messaged me earlier and I will actually read the message to you because I do actually understand and get it. Basically, he had watched Full Force earlier, which for anybody that knows, which most people here do know, does a great job with news and on YouTube. It's a good channel. I think most everybody watches it. Seems like a really good guy. And so he and from what I understand, I believe you were on there watching too, Matthew.
Yep.
Maybe that's what he said. But anyway, he said even though it ends during June, it's smarter
Mm-hmm.
than to launch it before June because people might not be thinking about all the money they're about to drop on pre-orders,
Yep.
right? Let alone maybe Joe Fest and whatever. So
Right.
so that's a good comment and it makes sense and I do understand that. And that's the one thing I was going to mention for quickly was that timing wise, it's end of the month / beginning of the month. You've got Joe Fest coming up, right? You've got all these pre-orders that are going to be dropping here at the end of June or beginning of August. And so, like, I want this, right?
Yep.
I know a lot of people want this. I would not have been one of the ones that was able to get one of the top tiers.
Right.
However, the $300 option appeals to me. Now, deciding which one I want,
Yeah. That's tough.
but right, but at the end of the day, I got a lot of stuff coming up, right? And I got a lot of stuff in the third week of June. So it is a little tough. I really love it, and I'm gonna ping pong back and forth, and I probably will get it ultimately. But I can see where that could be tough, difficult for a lot of
Yeah.
people.
That is also the hard thing about Kickstarters, crowdfunding things. There's never a perfect time for it.
Right.
You can market it and build it up, and if you do all that and get people ready for it, that helps a lot to prepare for it. And then you have to time it right and not have it interfere with summer plans or other things that are coming in that are of similar value to people, and that they have to make those hard decisions. But they're going to have to make those hard decisions either way.
That's true, and that's what people do as collectors, right?
Yeah.
So if you are a collector, you can't sit there and go, "Oh man, this is crazy expensive." Because there's probably things in your collection that you've made those decisions about and decided to get them.
Yep.
It's kind of the war you fight with yourself over stuff like that, especially if you are a collector, no matter what it is. But
Yep.
but yeah, I 3 Star Draw says the official part of them digitally appeals to me though, but it's high for not having a physical thing you can hold. I understand that, and we kind of went over that. Also, I want to say, Punk says it's already done for them. All they have to do is print it up. But like I said,
Right.
people are buying it, and that's very true. People are going to buy it. Bottom line.
Well, so yeah, not exactly, because they still have to edit it into the format, and then they have to put the new material in there, and then
That's true.
bind it with the covers and stuff. So there's still a lot that goes into creating a product like this because it's never been done before,
Right.
and especially like this format. So they have to reformat everything, and that reformatting is a pain in the butt. I had to
Well,
reformat my
what do
book
you?
I wrote one time, and that was a terrible experience.
Oh, I don't even want to know. I really don't. I mean, I do want to know, but I really don't want to know because
Right.
I wouldn't even know where to go with that. I
Yeah.
definitely wouldn't know where to go with that. And I'm sure when you were starting out doing it, you probably maybe felt the same way. Um,
We've got
Woody Triple Deuce, the figure addict says just back the Cobra Commander one. So
nice.
Woody's in on that. He's already jumped in. He said, "Hey, give it to me, baby." Got a little
That's
Rick
it.
James in him.
If Yep. I mean, if you didn't get a chance to get all the reprints from IDW in the soft format, this is a way to get it in hardback. And this is a way, if you got the IDW hardbacks, this is a way to complete the hardback collection, and it's going to look
Right.
gorgeous on a shelf.
Yeah. Are you
And
kidding me?
they've already unlocked 5 stretch goals here. So the spot gloss is added to the finish, the double-sided bookmark, the die cut stickers, the fold out for Duke and the fold out for Cobra Commander are done, and then the satin ribbon. That's awesome. I don't know.
That's
I mean,
cool.
if you have any large format books like that, having that little ribbon is an amazing little tab to put in there and just be able to pop open the book to where
Yes.
you left it. Better than a bookmark, in my opinion, because
Yep.
you're never going to go anywhere. But and then the rest of them are top secret, and so they've got all these listed top secrets. So they may already have plans for where it's going to go, and I don't know how far they plan to go down this rabbit hole because it's not going to be a $3.5 million campaign, but it could be an easy $2 million campaign.
Well, I assume, although it's not a good idea to assume, however, I assume they probably will hit those unlocks. It is interesting to think about when the classified line launched. And coming off of the 2 GI Joe movies and then the Snake Eyes movie, really no new animation. Obviously, not long ago, last year or whatever, we got the continuation from Larry Hama and everything. It seems like there's a concerted effort, and I know Skybound has put some eggs in this basket, and they've had success with the new comics, right? The Energon universe, the Transformers, the GI Joe, I say the GI Joe, but the Dukes, and Cobra Commander comics rather, and more to come. Which Scarlet has already sales, pre-orders are through the roof, and you and I have our reservations about that comic. However, regardless, they're really striking while the iron is hot, and I think we're hopefully, as a GI Joe fan, we're going to get some content. Whether that's movie, maybe some possible animation. Who knows? Nothing's been really announced. So this could be a good time for GI Joe fans to eat well, to eat really good and get their hands on some stuff, because it may be a long time before that comes around. And if that's the case, we're all going to have a cane and we're going to have white hair, and we're going to be clutching our collections extremely tight so that no one rips them out of our hands, as we get older. So, so yeah, man, it's a good time. I think that's a super cool compendium. I will end up getting it, I know, but it is a cost, and not everybody's able to dive into that. So you really got to weigh those things out, I guess.
I got to call you out on this one. You have shelf space for Voltron.
That's okay, right?
But you don't have this much room for 4 of those books, because that's all it's going to take. It's that much by about that much.
No, you're 100% correct. I mean, that is absolutely correct. I and me sitting here and going, hey, I've got a full Voltron set. You're right. So far be it from me to really complain per se. I will tell you, and if anybody wants to know, on 3-Star Draw's channel, he and I did a Voltron review of all the Lions and the full Voltron put together. And so if you get a chance, go watch that. It was a lot of fun to make. It really was a lot of fun to make. But I get your point, Matthew, and you're absolutely right. And that's why I say that's kind of that battle that we play with ourselves, right? You've got this much room for a fully assembled Voltron figure, and if anybody knows the prices of them, they know exactly how much it is. So that compendium and what it costs and what you get for supporting it it's a lot of stuff, and so yeah, that's there. If I can get Voltron, chances are I'm probably going to figure out how to get this. So, um, I want to say hey to Todd C, who just jumped in too. Todd C says, "Hey, what's up, guys? Just woke up in time. Hey, man, if you wake up at any time during this stream and join in, that's the right time, man. I am good, good as gold with that, buddy. Good to see you,
Yep.
man. Thank you so much. Um, so I wanted to put that at the top because that stuff broke. It was big news within the collecting world, and I think really, within the pop culture world, because we talk about it. How many people out there are GI Joe fans? How many people out there are Transformers fans? How many people are He-Man fans or Conan fans? And that all falls under this umbrella. And I think it's really important to highlight it, point it all out. And I know with some of our folks that are here joining us, they're going to be very interested in that information anyway.
Yep.
They probably know it already, but it's good to highlight it and bring it up. That's for sure.
Skybound has put a fire under people because there are people that never read any of the IDW books that are starting to pick up the new stuff. I don't know, they missed it, whatever. And part of that's due to classified popularity growing and people picking up the figures and saying, "Oh yeah, I remember this." And then new comics come out. They got a starting point now with the new Skybound comics. Now they can go back and revisit all of the Marvel ones that they had before. And
and sorry, go right ahead.
But Skybound has done this great job of re-energizing the fan base with all this stuff. If I don't know if you know the numbers or not, but the IW book was getting down to 3,500 copies were being sold by Diamond. 3,500 copies of GI Joe were being sent out. That's all that was being sent out near the end of the IDW time. I mean, at most, there were 5,000 books that were being purchased. And I don't know how many they actually made, but those numbers got so low that IDW couldn't afford to keep the license anymore. They're like, it's not doing what we need it to do. And, we can talk about why that happened, but the IDW Universe book ended very badly, and they kept changing writers every year, and it disrupted the whole continuity. So there was no consistency, and they're trying to continue the story. The only story that was consistent was Mike Costa's story, consistent with art. And he did the entire Cobra book from the beginning to end, and it was awesome. There were ups and downs in it, but for the most part, his writing was on point. After Chuck Dixon left, the book never did as well. And it's a shame because, we can go back and forth about a couple of the writers on there and their extracurricular behavior, but they are what killed the GI Joe comic book for IDW.
Right. I would dare say that anything Chuck Dixon leaves is lesser, worse off for it. In my opinion.
He did make one mistake, or one decision that he chose to make during that GI Joe run really made me mad. It almost made me want to throw the book on the ground. And that's when he took Duke, who was an E8, and made him an 06. Now,
refresh me on that one.
You can't do it in the IDW timeline. Things happened. Hawk, was in trouble or whatever. He had to step away from it, or was in prison, or I forget what it was. But they were looking for a new commander, and so they took Duke, who was the top shirt,
right?
Top sergeant. He was an E8, and they promoted him to colonel.
And that was a Chuck Dixon decision, I guess. Well, obviously writing the comic.
Yeah, as far as I understand, he was writing it at the time. And as good as Chuck has been with all of his military stuff, that one blew my mind, because I'm like, the highest transition promotion was Audie Murphy, and he went from an enlisted to a first lieutenant, I think, first or second, I forget, but it was the highest promotion transition from enlisted to officer that anybody's ever done. So to jump from, an E8 to an 06, or it just didn't make any sense.
Right. Um, I I actually need to go back and really fill in my knowledge of the IDW run.
It
Mine
had
is
its
mostly
moments.
within the Marvel, obviously. That um,
the
but
the
go
IDW
ahead,
Hama
go ahead.
stuff, the IDW Larry Hama stuff, I enjoyed for the most part. He did one of my favorite characters dirty, but that's fine. He had other storylines that he wanted to get to. The IDW timeline wise was really great up until the aftermath of Civil War, the Cobra Civil
Okay.
War.
Hmm.
That whole build up and lead up to the Cobra Civil War was phenomenal. That Chuckles book, The Last Laugh, is one of the best GI Joe stories ever. And then you get to the aftermath of it, and you tell some stories with the new Cobra Commander, and uh, they were pretty good. And then you also had three books that launched in the timeline at the same time. You had the Joe book, the Origins book, and the Cobra book. And they all were telling different things. The Origins book was going back in the past and telling different things. And the first several issues were written by Hama, and they told a very different origin of G.I. Joe that I thought was really actually fascinating, the psychology that he put into that writing. And so, it shows the depths that Larry can go with stuff, and it worked well in that universe, and it built up. But then, when they got to, they called it season 4, I guess, 4 or 5, the quality book just really dropped off.
Okay. Well, I will. I've got, like I said, I have all the PDFs, and at one time I was marching through many of the books, and there's so many, it's absolutely ridiculous to go through. But I do know a couple people that really enjoy them, and so I need to brush up on a lot of that from the IDW in particular.
It started so
So
great. So, yeah, it's worth it.
well, we I've covered some GI Joe, and there'll be plenty of time for that. Hopefully, as we start getting closer and closer to movie or Energon Universe, and hopefully that'll give us some stuff to talk about. I kind of wanted to get
Oh,
into what's that?
I was just saying that the Cobra Commander last issue came out, and it was really good. I love the way
Oh
they
yeah,
ended it. So
absolutely, yes,
the Energon
fantastic,
universe and moving forward is coming
loving
out.
it.
Looking great. I can't wait for that Destro book. I'm tentatively positive about the Scarlet book. We'll see, but
Right.
it,
Well,
it looks interesting.
the Cobra Commander was fantastic. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and filling out my new comic collection quite extensively. I did want to say really quickly, because we're about to get into some Acolyte early reviews and impressions. Um, just so everybody knows, here probably in the next week or a little more than that, going to be getting fiber internet. That means that this shitty internet that I've got, that I've been using, which freezes up and on occasion in a stream with down south with 3-star draw, has dropped me out completely. So if there's any hiccups, I apologize. That will be changing literally within the next probably 7 days or so, and so it's going to be really solid, especially for these streams. So I can't wait for that higher bandwidth and everything. So I apologize if there's any hiccups, any freezes, or anything. Hopefully, I won't drop out. That's the worst thing that can happen here, obviously. But we will move along to this one right here, the Acolyte. Now, we talked about it last week a little bit. Early reviews coming out. Obviously, the shill media, the Disney shill media has had their grubby little eyeballs on this already. They've been shown some early access. So I am going to bring the screen up for us to take a look at. So we've got some early impressions. This is an article on Forbes. This is Paul Tassi. If any of you guys follow anything on Forbes, Paul Tassi is quite prominent. Some of his stuff I'm okay with, some of his stuff I'm not, whatever. Early impressions of the Acolyte are relentlessly positive. Now, Paul Tassi has kind of changed his tune a little bit here recently. He was very um, I mean, the only word to use really when it comes to the extra positive stuff or whatever is the shill media, right? The mainstream media. But now we start to see a turn in the media, right? They started to look at these things and understand what we've all been talking about for quite some time now. And they're starting to point it out because they're starting to realize that people are wanting to um, be authentic. They want authenticity, and they're getting that from their YouTubers. They're
Yep.
getting it from sitting on a camera with a shitty internet like me and you, or me anyway, and talking for real. And so let's take a look at some of these early impressions, such as from Star Wars Holocron. The Acolyte, episodes 1 through 4, are superb. A captivating murder mystery that evokes the detective tales of Twin Peaks and Matt Reeves' The Batman. Mature like Andor, while fully embracing and thematically connecting to the prequels. Seeing the High Republic in live action does not disappoint. First comment from me is Twin Peaks. Is this if I don't know who Star Wars Holocron is, I'm gonna guess that they probably weren't alive when Twin Peaks was out. I don't. I'm just guessing. Maybe the goodie bag they got for being able to go to the theater and see the first few episodes or whatever. They got in their goodie bag a little card that says, "Make sure you compare this to Twin Peaks and Matt Reeves, the Batman." They also mention Andor, which I find interesting because no one talked about Andor, and it's probably the best show they've done.
Well, that's why they're saying that.
Uh-huh. Yeah. All right. So, from Nancy Wang Yoon. Now, I don't know her credentials. I don't know who she works with. It does not have that here. I would appreciate it if Forbes actually cited their sources and not just the name, maybe where they work at. Nancy Wang Yoon says the Acolyte 2 episode premiere was so much fun. Lee Jung-jae's performance. Now, that's the guy from Squid Game. Okay. Lee Jung-jae or Jae performance was so good, and Manny Jacinto was hilarious. So we've got a Matt Reeves the Batman serious, we've got Twin Peaks goofiness, but here we've got hilarious. I also liked Amandla Stenberg as the lead, which I believe is Leslie Headland, Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant. I think that's her wife, if I'm not mistaken, Amanda Stenberg. Despite borrowing a costume, I'm not a Star Wars fan, but you don't need to be one yourself. Enjoy this series. Eric Voss says the Acolyte presents something we rarely see in Star Wars, a good mystery. Not just who is Glup Shido, although I'm really curious who the hell Glup Shido is. But truly a fugitive style conspiracy thriller. Let's see. There's only 3 more really, and I'll just kind of go through them quickly. Jermaine Lucier says, beholden to nothing except being Star Wars, the Acolyte soars. It's interesting, fun, character-driven mystery with real stakes. Saw the first 2 episodes and loved them. Sean O'Connell says, really digging the Acolyte through 4 episodes. Fresh storytelling in an unexplored era of Star Wars. It's all about character. Amandla Stenberg continues to impress as a former Padawan pulled into a murder mystery. Great fight choreography. If you've seen the trailer, my friends, that is not great fight choreography. Cool new worlds, big win. And lastly, and then we'll comment. And this is Georgie Rodriguez. Georgie Rodriguez. The Acolyte is the force-sensitive version of Andor. The cast is stellar. The writing of each episode is jam-packed. Practical sets and amazing costumes, as well as SFX work, make every location feel lived in while having an emotional through line to keep it focused. So, Matthew, I will ask you, based off of these 6 quick reviews, and we don't have the full review from each one of these people. There may be more that they had to say, but this is what Forbes and Paul Tassi chose to show us, which means they want to show us the best, right? What do you think about these reviews so far?
I think it's better than what Rings of Power did by getting people who will never watch the show come and try and hype it up, saying how much they love Tolkien, even though they've never read Tolkien or even watched a Tolkien movie, probably. And they try to hype up this whole series based on propaganda. It still feels a little bit in that vein. Because I mean they want to get it printed, right? So they're going to say these things so that Disney will notice them and give them more access to stuff. If
Right.
in fact it is truly a good character, it might be interesting. I just think that there's so much more to Star Wars than the Force, and they are skirting the line so much to breaking canon lore. From what is in the actual movies and what is stated in the movies about how long it's been since Sith have been around.
Yes.
If they're going to go the Sith route.
Um, I just lost my homeboy. All right. Let me know if you still see me. Matthew has fallen out for a moment. Let's see. Let's see here. There he is. I
Sorry.
thought no, it's okay. I thought it was me. Like I said, I just apologized for my internet, and I'm like, oh no, my it kicked him out.
Oh,
Um,
I just saw it spinning there. Where was I?
no, you were good. Basically, addressing some of the concerns that people have with the lore, which I think at this point now is valid concerns because we've seen a lot of our shows really mess with the lore instead of honoring source material or honoring what came before. And I wanted to highlight a couple comments real quick too. Down south said, I kind of scoffed at the don't have to be a Star Wars fan comment, but then I remembered Rogue One, so maybe there's hope. And that's very true. I'm
Yep.
not saying this show isn't going to be good. I think it's okay to be skeptical. I think a healthy skepticism is just fine. A Punk with Toy says, but if you're going into the series hating it, you're going to hate it. Well, that's very true. And we see that with anything, right? If you have a mindset and you're going into something knowing that you're not going to like it, then you are going to nitpick every possible thing that you don't like. And I've struggled with that sometimes in the past. My son is the one that actually, he's the one that actually made a comment to me and said that, well, yeah, if you see that, that's what you're going to see if you're looking for it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's not there, but it's how it's presented. And sometimes it is easy to go overboard with some of that. So I fully
I,
understand Punk this comment as well.
but I've been so thoroughly disappointed with every one of the shows except for the first two
Yes.
seasons of Mandalorian and Andor.
Yes.
Everything else that they have put out has been so terrible that I see a pattern and I can't get away from the pattern now because I've actually watched the content. And so, I'm going into it with high skepticism. Knowing the people involved with it just kind of gives a sour taste.
Yes, Crusty Old Crow, who I saw in the chat, Matthew, you said hey to. I had missed it while I was reading those reviews. Hey, Crusty Old Crow, good to see you, man. Glad you're here. This is a hard series to predict. Andor was advanced, but it didn't prevent the Star Wars franchise from drowning in its own lore tidal wave now. I feel like it's really difficult sometimes when you have so many movies and so many books and so many shows. And we know what Disney did to the EU when they purchased Star Wars. That at first we were all hopeful. Oh my gosh, this is awesome. Maybe they're going to adapt some of this stuff. And then they said, nope, all this stuff is no longer canon. And we're going to pick and choose what we want to make. And we're going to alter it ever so slightly or ever so largely to fit our own desires. But it's like you said, Matthew. I think once you've seen time and time again where you've been proven correctly, I think it is okay to have healthy skepticism going into this because we also know that there are other things afoot, right? We've heard from the director, we've heard from the showrunner, we've heard from cast members at Star Wars Celebration like last year. We've heard all the talk and about what the identity politics that come with this from the people who make it. And the reason I bring that up is because we just want to hear about what the show is about. We want to hear about the characters and what they're about. We don't want to hear about current world politics within what those characters view, right? What the lens they should be viewed through. We want to know what they're about within the Star Wars universe. And a
Right.
lot of times those two things don't match up when you start looking at the original, when you start looking at what Lucas put out, and you try to mesh those things together. What we've gotten often, they don't match up. Even though Lucas's stuff had politics within it, it was more of a either theme or it was more of his, from either A, his experience, or B, subtle.
Yeah.
Right? There are overt things in some of those original movies, but at the same time, there's a lot of subtle homages and to a lot of things in there. I would dare
Yep.
say anybody who's not a Japanese culture fan would have no idea that Seven Samurai or Kurosawa is a inspiration for him, right? Like you wouldn't know that if you're just a kid and you watch Star Wars, you just think it's a hero's journey. There's a
Yeah.
lot more there, but it's not rooted in gender and race and sexuality and things of that nature. And that's why those movies hit with people. That's why I think a lot of times these shows have not hit with people because
Well,
they want sometimes focus on this. Now, I'm not saying Mandalorian per se, but we see them in certain scenes and certain actions and dialogue in some of these shows. So,
and it all comes down to, can you project yourself onto that character? Do they have traits or values that are similar to yours? The race, gender, sexuality shouldn't matter on that unless you have zero empathy. If you have no empathy, then you can't do that. But if you do have empathy and you're not an egomaniac, then you can project yourself and say, oh, I could see myself in that position with this person, or I could see myself being this person, because you understand what they're going through, because that's the way they emote. That's the way their acting is.
right.
That's actually called acting. So
Right.
you actually pretend to be something you're not.
Yes. Yes. I mean, and the phrase has been coined as far as, adult pretenders, but
Yeah.
that's what they are. And hopefully, and we started to see it a little bit more often, they will go back to doing just that, right? Being
Yeah.
adult
Yeah.
pretenders for a living and stopping all the other talk, right?
Yeah.
Not alienating half your fan base.
If
That
these
is
people didn't talk
crucial.
nearly as much, then people would like their stuff so much more. If they just kept them out of social media and just did some press junkets here or there, and they talked only about the show or
Yes,
whatever, not getting into personal politics, not getting into
that's right.
politics, they would have a larger fan base. This is why people, so many some actors out there are like, you don't want to hear from me. I'm an idiot. I'm an actor. You don't want to know my politics. And those are the smart
Absolutely.
ones, you know?
Yeah, it's
Instead of crying in front of a courthouse.
yes, yes. And but also again, the movie star mystique has gone away, right? Now partially through social media, or
Yep.
mainly through social media, because we know what people think every day of every minute, or every minute of
Right.
every day rather.
Yep.
But we've also found that most of those thoughts are very vapid, narcissistic, and very empty, and also very repetitive, because we hear the same people parrot many of the things that we'll read. They'll parrot many of the people we see on TV, and so they have no idea what they're talking about, but they'll parrot those thoughts. And also their publicist has probably told them, you need to say these two sentences at this premiere when you walk up to the microphone. You need to reiterate that this is about this is about this, and this is about this. And
Yep.
I think people have finally caught on.
Yep.
Finally caught on.
And I think Bobby here hit it right on the head.
Bobby Wold.
Yep. All the new Star Wars stuff hasn't really captured my imagination. Not even Bad Batch. Maybe the first and last episode of every season is interesting, but it's so much filler because they have to fill the space now. They feel like they have to put something out instead of
Right.
letting it rest to create anticipation.
Right.
You're right on there, Bobby.
there's a couple other comments. J Astro 319 said Star Wars has started to be an abusive relationship, in my opinion, where you say maybe this time will be different, right? And I've been guilty of that. I've been guilty, and I get sucked in, you know, and then I'm like, oh, here we go again.
That
Um,
analogy has been used before. I've heard it before, and I think
uh-huh.
it is. I think it is very apt for
Yes.
the MCU and Star
Yes.
Wars fans, Star Trek fans, Doctor
Uh-huh.
Who. I think everybody's living in an abusive relationship at this point with the producers and showrunners of these properties now.
Keep coming back for more, and you keep, and then there's getting let down, and then there's a new promise, right? There's a new promise, and it's no, this
Yep.
is going to be different, this is going to be better. And then possibly Mav says, when you watch Star Wars, you watch it to see something that is unrealistic but fun. When you bring real world politics into it and make it obvious, it ruins the fun of a fantasy sci-fi show or movie. And that is absolutely correct. It does. We do this. We watch those things to escape, to go to another
Yep.
planet, to go to another world. And when you bring our world into it very heavy-handedly, then it does. It takes you out of what you're watching, and it
Yep.
puts you right back into that chair you're sitting in.
And I could give you a whole political rant as to why they're doing it too.
You and I, you and I both can do that. Now we wanted to make with this stream. There are certain things that I think we wanted to try to keep it light and fun. Are those topics something that we both could get off into? 100%, right? That's something that I will probably start doing here soon, is kind of just a solo stream during the day sometime, and I'll probably dive into some of those topics. But with you, Matthew, I want to get in and have some fun,
Yep.
and
Let's have some fun.
touch about that stuff on the fringes, but we don't have to do a deep dive into that stuff, right? You want to read Krusty Old Crow's comment here?
He always says, I need to know about moisture farming and calamari naval traffic. I'd like to know more about their naval strategy, because
I
I
would
think
too.
they probably have some good stuff, especially battling the I forget the other species, the mind flayer species, what they call them. But
Oh yeah. No, I that's one aspect, we haven't gotten a lot of calamari, at least not in mainstream, right? Not in mainstream. I know Clone
yeah,
Wars dabbled a little bit here and there with some episodes and stuff, but which, for those of you who have not seen the Clone Wars, and I understand the animation is not for everybody, man, I love the Clone Wars. I really do, mainly because it fleshes out a lot of, and George had a lot to do with, especially early on, the Clone Wars itself and the relationships between those people, but it also takes the clones and turns them into real people. And I
yeah.
love that about that show.
Yeah, I mean, the latter half of the Clone Wars was some really truly excellent writing. I
Oh
thought
man.
it can be hard to get into at the beginning.
Yes.
The movie was awkward, but quite honestly, it's why up until this Ahsoka TV series came out, that Ahsoka was so many people's favorite character, because of the arc that she went on in this show.
Yeah.
And everything that happened to her and the whole world, and you saw it, and it fleshes out so much that happens between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, that it really fleshes out the world and makes it a more full place. And it makes Revenge of the Sith even that much better. And it actually
Yes,
kind
it
of makes
does.
Attack of the Clones better too, which is, I didn't
Yes, it
know if it
does.
could actually do that, but it did.
Man, I love it. I recommend it for anybody. You're right. The first season or two is difficult to get into, but man, there are some 3 episode story arcs. There are some,
Yep.
great character building and development, and some of those ancillary characters on the outside. So I wanted to get to this really quickly because I I've been paying attention to this. George Lucas recently was getting awarded, I believe it was the Cannes Film Festival, right? And
Yep.
other people say Cannes Film Festival. He was receiving an award, and I want to just kind of share this screen real quick, and we'll start kind of getting on our horse here a little bit. But so George made some comments being interviewed, and they've kind of ruffled some feathers, but I have to agree with everything he said. Now I know George sometimes doesn't. He's not the best, maybe, at explaining himself, especially now at his age and whatever. But he was kind of responding to some of the critics, and I've watched the entire clip on YouTube. I didn't want to sit here and play it here, but I would suggest anyone go out there, look for George Lucas, Cannes Film Festival, CANNES, or the Palme, PALME, d'Or award. He's the honorary Palme d'Or award winner. Anyway, so he's reflecting on negative comments that he's received over the years for the prequels, and he said they would say it's all white men. And Lucas said, well, most of the people are aliens. The idea is you're supposed to accept people for what they are, whether they're big and furry or whether they're green or whatever. The idea is all people are equal. Now, obviously, you got Lando, you had Sam Jackson, he mentions both of those guys. At one point, it is kind of funny because as he's trying to remember Lando, he's going, and the host actually jumps in and goes, Lando. And he's like, oh, yes, that's right, Lando. And it's like, God, George is getting old, man.
Yeah, yeah. He was thinking Colt 45 the whole time.
Oh, yeah, baby. He was thinking about 3-Star Draw's video. That's what he's thinking about, dropping him in that Colt 45 back to tank with his missing an arm. And so then he goes on to say that the only beings in Star Wars universe who were discriminated against were the robots, which he's consistently said that, right? Like,
yeah.
At least as far as everybody, robots were the lowest rung of the low. They're not allowed into bars, right? We don't serve your kind here.
Yep.
It's the very first movie. That was a way of saying, people are always discriminating against something, and sooner or later, that's what's going to happen. I mean, we're already starting with AI, as in, well, we can't trust those robots. Now, that's a discussion I want to get into with you someday.
Yeah.
I think it's a juicy discussion. I have my reservations, but obviously Skynet and such, but I also have, I believe in real world applications of it. Lucas also responded to criticism about the depiction of women in the Star Wars films, saying, who do you think the heroes are in those stories? Because people say, oh, well, there's no women. Women are not prevalent. They're not prominent. He says,
well, those are people that never watched a Star Wars movie.
Absolutely. He says, what do you think Princess Leia was? She's the head of the rebellion. She's the one that's taking this young kid who doesn't know anything and this boisterous, I know everything guy who can't do anything and trying to save the rebellion with these clowns. It's the same thing with Queen Amidala. He says, you can't just put a woman in.
You go into Mon Mothma,
go ahead.
And I mean,
yeah.
I mean, she was the leader tactician, right?
Yes, she's the one. She's the one that really had to be the head of. And if you watch Andor, you'll get some more backstory. Now I know that is Disney's production, but if that's what we're to take, then Mon Mothma is critical.
Yeah, and she was in was it Revenge of the Sith or Attack of the Clones? But there's some cutscenes with her in there as well.
Yes.
And then she was also in Clone Wars, and that was still Lucas made. He had just for her from the beginning, being on the political side, on Coruscant and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's well known. I mean, even in EU, I mean, it's well known how crucial she was, right? So it's like, hey, we need more women CEOs. Well, Mon Mothma is probably your great example here, especially considering you have a downtrodden people that have been oppressed, leading them up to the top, right?
Yep.
And so then he says, you can't just put okay, now this is the part I love, and he came under fire for this because people obviously take things the wrong way. You can't just put a woman in pants and expect her to be a hero. They can wear dresses. They can wear whatever they want. It's their brains and their ability to think and plan and be logistical. That's what the hero is. There's much more, and I say much more. It's not a super long interview. I wish they maybe would have an English speaking, like a native English host, because I think it's difficult for George at his age to understand a French host speaking English. I just see that translation differential there. But, everything he said is not controversial, and that's what's so scary, is that there's a large segment of people who will make it controversial, but
Yep.
nothing he said is controversial, and he's had these thoughts since the beginning. This is nothing new. He's not pandering to anybody, and he's also not being mean,
Yep.
right? Or whatever, disrespectful. It's
Well,
it's his thoughts.
and I mean, he's a big supporter of Bob Iger and Disney. He always has been, but he's been hesitant to do business with them because he figured they'd stab him in the back, and well, they did. But he still is in that abusive relationship with Disney, and so
Right.
he supported Bob Iger over the potential board changes that were coming down, and probably, I don't know if they would have been good or not, but it would have brought a lot more attention to things that needed to change.
And his wife obviously is very tied to the board as well, and
Yeah.
through her position as well. And then if you want to look that information up, you can. I am not. I'm versed on it. I'm not as well versed to start calling out names and everything right now,
Yeah.
but his wife definitely. I mean, and I can imagine, and in his condition right now, I don't know how much. I think he just wants to live life and just kind of get an award here or there and tell his opinion. But it was obvious when he did that live stream with that elementary school, or that school back, a few years ago, and his wife standing right over his
Yeah.
shoulder, and he starts talking about selling, to the or not to the white slavers. That's when he talks about how Disney kind of took it and his ideas weren't used, and they didn't
Yep.
really, they did their own thing, and you could tell she's like right there going, honey, you need to shut up. Like, all right, so I just wanted to bring that up for a minute. Now Matthew, I want to give you the floor here, and if you can give us a good review, nothing too crazy long, but maybe just a good summary, a good review on a couple of things that you've seen recently. Now that my son's school is over, and there's not any activities and stuff like that, I am going to really concentrate on a couple movies to bring in here, a couple new things, new shows. And so, but I want you, this is Matthew's methodical movie reviews. I want you to give us a good summary of Garfield.
So we had a family weekend, right? So we had to go see a family movie, and we were going back and forth, and I kind of wanted to see If, but we weren't sure about some things in it, if it would be appropriate for our 8-year-old, and we saw Garfield instead because we knew that would be appropriate for her. And looking at all the stuff on If, it still has some more mature content that's in there that may be over her head, but I still want to see it. But Garfield, it's fun. It drags in a couple spots, but there's some musical cues, there's some background stuff. If you are a fan of Garfield, if you like Jim Davis's art and his comic books, you'll get a kick out of this, because Jim was heavily involved with this, and it shows. There's a scene in the background where it says Jim's Comics in the background, and
Okay.
there's a great scene when they start busting out the Top Gun music, and not Danger Zone, but like the Top Gun theme music. Uh,
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and then Garfield starts talking about he does his own stunts just like Tom Cruise.
Okay. I know exactly the track you're talking about. My son knows that track too. He played
Yes.
it over and over and over again.
Yeah, and so there were some just moments that my wife and I look at each other and just started dying laughing over my kid's head.
Okay.
So there's some geeky nerdy moments in there if you're paying attention. But overall, it was good. It's nothing out of the ordinary. It's not unpredictable. It's just a fun story that you can take your kids to, and there's nothing um, weird about it that this you're going to have to worry about your kids hearing or seeing. It's not like that movie Turning Red, which was
Yes.
not a children's movie.
Right.
At most it's a teenager's movie, but that's only if you want your teenagers to hate you more, because it was an anti-parent movie. So that movie was terrible. And I told my wife, don't let our daughter watch it. And she watched it one time, and my wife was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I let her watch that." And I said, "I told you."
Well, and I can understand someone, unless you really spell it out for them, and maybe you did, I don't know,
Yeah.
but yeah, you're right, because now with children's movies, even with with something like Garfield, which even for somebody who's in their 40s or more, buying those books at the book fair at school, the
Yep.
troll book fair or whatever, and you'd go and
Yep.
you make sure you brought your money, and I would get those long Garfield books, right? And and so I've loved Garfield, and I saw those earlier movies with Bill Murray, his
Oh
voice,
yeah.
and but obviously with newer children's movies, and as a parent, right, of a younger child, you're going to be on the lookout now, right? You're going to be look out and see if there's anything in there that you've got to kind of pick and choose. So it's good to
It
hear that. Yeah, there's some adult maybe jokes, but there's not any content maybe that you would be
no.
questioning.
No, I mean there's nothing of the sexual nature. There's nothing of real violence. It's all cartoon stuff, and there's no other weirdness that you might have in some other Disney products that are always there these days. And in this day and age, I mean, we've always had to do it in the past. You can't ever trust a corporation. You can't ever trust a government to do what's right. So you always have to do your due diligence whenever you participate in anything. You have to do your due diligence.
Yes. Well, so it sounds like anybody out there with kids, and out of our viewers, I don't know who all does. I know a few that don't, but for anybody maybe watching this on a replay or whatever, so would you say it's worth taking the kids to go see and have a little fun? It's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, if your kids like animals or anthropomorphic movies, it's good. It's fun. Um, if you get up to about 10 years old, they're probably going to be a little bored with it. But if you're looking at that, 6 to 9 range, I think it's a good movie for
Sure.
for that age range.
Okay. Um, so
Kept my daughter engaged, and she's 8.
that's hard to do sometimes unless they have a tablet in their hand.
Yeah,
you know,
there's yeah,
man, even movies sometimes are hard to keep them engaged. These days, but that's good
yep,
to hear. It's not a movie in my wheelhouse because my son is 16 years old. I doubt it's something. However, at the same time, it doesn't mean we might be hanging out, sitting around, and knowing him, he might want to throw it on just for fun. We've watched Hotel Transylvania
yeah,
1,
yeah.
2, and 3 in the last year and a half, probably at least. I'd say
Don't
we've
watch the
probably
fourth one.
watched those. No, I think I think he put the fourth one on, and I
Oh, the
begged him
fourth one's
over and over to
terrible.
turn it off. It was
Yeah,
absolutely brutal.
it
And
was
I think
terrible.
I think he did it just to torture me, but I thought it was terrible. But nonetheless, you get my gist,
Yep.
right?
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah,
like you never know what you're going to throw on and try to have a good time with, and
yeah.
so that's good, man. It's good to hear. I wanted to highlight one comment, if I can. Oh yeah, here we go. 3-star draw says I remember buying the Spaceballs novelization at one of those book fairs.
I didn't know
And
they were allowed to do that.
I honestly, man, I do not remember that. I'm not gonna lie.
I think he's pulling a joke on us.
I it may very well be. I hope he is, but
I think he's talking about Travis's Spaceballs origin novelization.
okay. All right. Yeah. So that's the problem with trying to run a stream and highlight and like catch stuff and look at comments. Like this one from Woody Triple Deuce, which by the way, it's Woody 222 the Figure Addict. By the way, guys, like the name you picked for the show. I don't necessarily know that that's the name for the show. I'm struggling to come up with a name, and I'll be honest with you, I took some inspiration from Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann and Ed Sullivan, and
Really big
I
show.
would the really big show, and then of course with Dan and Keith, if you watch Sports Center in the '90s, especially, then they called it the Big Show because they did that to get at their bosses at ESPN, who told them that they weren't bigger than ESPN.
Hmm.
And so they started calling their show The Big Show. And then they made him change it. And
Yep.
every commercial break, they had to say, "This is ESPN." And then that became a mockery. But
Yep.
anyway, and then possibly Mav, who is a precocious 16-year-old out there, said the
Yeah.
fourth one was definitely the worst. He's talking about Hotel Transylvania.
Yeah. And it's because they didn't get the voice cast back. It was all different voice cast. So Adam Sandler didn't have anything to do with it.
Oh, 3 Star Draw says no, actually. He said, no, for real. I bought it there. So he actually did buy the novelization for Spaceballs at one of the book fairs.
I thought that was a part of the agreement. They were not allowed to sell or merchandise anything.
Yeah, because, right, the whole, well, I don't know. It was yogurt, merchandising.
Well, and that was the joke, is because that's the deal they
Yes.
made with Lucas, is that there is no
Oh,
merchandise
yes. Yes.
whatsoever.
Right. And which is a shame, really, because, man, wouldn't you love to have some, a
All right.
Schwartz
Well,
ring?
we'll get to more of that discussion on Thursday.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Yeah, that's true. Exactly. You need to do some plugging here too. So let's go. We'll move right along. We've been at it 1 hour and 10 minutes, so we're actually doing really good, making us pretty good time here. How about and this is something I want to check out. I did send you a message. I heard it's super depressing to an extent. I've not watched it yet. I do want to watch it. May very well try to watch it here tomorrow since I'm off. Tell us about Iron Claw, just a good review, a good summary, and whether you give it a yes or a no. And don't spoil too much for those that don't know it.
Well, I mean, if you know the story, it's already spoiled.
Yes.
It's based on a true story. The Von Erich family and the extensive tragedy that they went through. The movie deviates from some things. They wanted to tell a compact story and get the impact of what happened to them across, and they did it in a fairly balanced manner. They didn't go hard like, oh, this guy's such a bad guy and he was such a jerk, and these people had these kind of problems, and really dive into those issues that they were having or whatever. They kind of told it from as neutral as a perspective as you possibly can, probably. And so the changes that they made were they compressed the timeline. They swapped the genders of Kevin's two oldest children, because he had daughters first before boys, but they put boys in there so that he could tell the finishing of the story the way he wanted to.
Okay.
Zac Efron's transformation is phenomenal. It's absolutely amazing. You can go back and look at some old footage and talk to people that know Kevin. They said Zac got his mannerisms perfect, and the massive body transformation that he did, phenomenal. It is a really good movie. I don't want to say it's depressing. It's actually got a little bit of hope to it, but it is a very, very tragic story about what happened to them.
And of course, this is a wrestling family, the Von Erich, wrestling family, and if you're a wrestling fan, you obviously have known or heard or read, and I guess you're right. From some of the things I have read from Hope, I guess the reason I said something about it being depressing is because of all of the things, the father and the way that he is, and
so they played that a little differently than expected, in my opinion. I mean, they kind of even handed it a little bit, with him being a businessman. Yeah, he was overbearing. Yeah, he pushed some boys to do some things that they probably didn't want to do. And he made some decisions that were maybe not the best for the family, but he was the man in charge and he was making decisions and doing what he could. And so they kind of balance it.
Okay.
And they did leave one brother completely out. So they left the youngest one out completely from the story, because that could go down a whole different dark route.
So basically, the father was like the Jacksons' dad, right? Is that pretty much?
Well, so I kind of, but not as bad. There's a couple lines that talk about how he was ripping off money from Kevin and the boys. You
Okay.
know,
Yeah.
he was taking his cut,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and his cut was pretty substantial.
Um, and of course, sometimes you see that in those dynamics, whether that, obviously in sports, right, where you have a parent that drives their kids, and that's what life is all about. They start when they're like 5 years old, or 4 years old, or like a Tiger Woods, even, but a different family dynamic there. But still, you will read those stories from time to time about parents that really push, and many times it turns out, and the children are grateful, because it put them in a position they probably never would have been in, and they never really understood what it takes to do those
Mm-hmm.
things. And then
Yep.
there are other tales of kids who grow up dysfunctional and have serious issues because of being pushed beyond the limits of what most people push children to. And a
Yep.
lot of times we see where it's the parent living out the dream vicariously through their children,
Yep.
and through their failures. They're on one hand trying to make sure their kids don't make those same failures, but B, almost not giving the children a choice in what their
Mm-hmm.
life path is going to be. And so it's an
Yep.
interesting, dive into that world. It is based on a true story. Obviously, yes, there are some things that have been kind of omitted or cut or changed. But I've heard nothing but great things about it. Nothing. I also heard that Zac Efron, because it was involved in an accident, that his jaw was broken. Like, his face has actually been changed by this accident he was in not long ago, and it has changed
Oh,
his jawline. Yeah, it's, if
I
you look
hadn't
at
heard that.
pictures,
He pulled a Mark
yeah,
Hamill.
yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, he's a lot prettier than Mark Hamill, though. I'll say that. Um, but yeah, from what I understand, he was in an accident, broke his jaw or whatever, and so when you watch the movie, it almost even helps his performance in this movie.
Wow.
From what I've understood and what I've seen from some of the channels you and I follow. So I saw Todd C here says that I watched the Dark Side of the Ring episode on them. That must be, I'm guessing, a episodic or a documentary style on wrestling. I'm not familiar, but I wouldn't mind checking it out, because when I was a kid, I was all about some wrestling, man. I was into it in the mid '80s for sure. 3-star draw says, I was just typing out, is he trying out for Luke Skywalker? Yeah, Matthew nailed that one. Right on the money, baby, as usual. So overall, you say, hey, check this movie out, watch it.
Yeah.
Great acting. Obviously, again, based on a true story, but good plot. Good. I don't know what you can say about editing and things of that nature in a movie like this,
Now,
but
I
I've
mean,
heard nothing.
it was pretty good. They actually intercut some actual footage playing on the TV
Oh, okay.
from some of the stuff, and then I was looking stuff up at the time too, and the actors that they chose uh, were decent, except for Ric Flair. Ric Flair was terrible. They really needed to either coach that guy or give him some direction. There was a little bit different, because he did not pull off Ric Flair very well, in my opinion. But
Okay. Well, so I wanted to get your takes for anybody out there on Garfield. I wanted to get your take on Iron Claw. Next week, I'll give myself some homework, or give myself some homework tomorrow, actually, and I will be bringing a review or two of my own, and maybe
nice.
we'll fit a couple of yours in there too if we can. Whatever we want to do, we can do it, man. I am open, open game here. I did want to kind of move on to kind of our next topic, and it's a movie that, again, I also haven't seen, but it's one of those things. It's like when you read and you hear so much about this stuff, if you live in this world of pop culture and you watch these shows and they talk about it, you find out about these shows, these movies, and then it feels like you've seen it without having seen it. I do want to see it. I'm sure maybe some of you have, but we'll talk about Furiosa just a little bit here, and there's a couple things I want to tie it into. Um, I love Mad Max. right? I love the Road Warrior as a kid. The Road Warrior when I was probably 8, whatever, 7, 8, something like that, 9. I don't know. I just love the Road Warrior. It was full of post-apocalyptic, uh, butt cheeks showing, wearing chaps, mohawks, spiky. You've got the stainless steel boomerang that can chop someone's hand off or stay a finger off or kill them. That was right up my alley. Motorcycles, car crashes, right? Then you get Beyond Thunderdome. Beyond Thunderdome was more of the hairband Mad Max, right? We got a lot of hairspray. We got Tina Turner. We got, a little. I don't know. It's kind of an odd movie. I still enjoyed it. Right, it's still in my childhood, still in my youth. And then nothing. Right, for a long time. We get obviously Fury Road. I thought Fury Road was a fantastic film. I thought it was really good. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I'm not a big Tom Hardy guy personally, but I thought he was okay, as Max. Um, Charlize Theron, she was fine. I'm not gonna rave over her performance, but I love the plot, right? And I loved everything about that movie. And obviously, they did some amazing work with practical effects, right?
Yeah.
Real car chases, real trucks.
Oh, yeah.
The guitar guy sitting there freaking in the air, like jamming on a guitar with 75 Marshall stacks behind him, on a truck or whatever. It was really cool. So
Yeah.
the expectations for Furiosa were probably on some hands pretty high. And some hands, I think, in a way, most people really, as by the box office numbers, which I'm gonna share here, most people really didn't pay much attention to, and I don't quite know why. This is from Hollywood Reporter. May 24th is when this came out. Now, obviously, it's been out for a few days. 3.5 million on Thursday previews. Garfield chases down 1.9 million. Actually, Garfield is I think the number one movie.
Well, I've got the numbers right here.
Okay, because I actually brought them up as well. I'm not going to show this article because there's nothing more that I want to show from it other than just the title. But if you want to, I will stop sharing this. If you want to share those numbers, I got them off of daily box office chart. So just the numbers.com. You and I are looking at the same website right now. So
Yeah.
so let's
So
go. Let's give a rundown here.
this is the website. The numbers is the one I go to. They have the most accurate box office information currently. And you can see right here, Garfield took the lead on Monday.
Yep.
And for an opening, they were both opening this weekend, and Garfield wins. If is doing well, but it's been out a little bit longer. Furiosa is stuttering, and you look back, and people are actually liking Furiosa.
Yes.
They're saying it's pretty good. I'm more interested in seeing it now than I was initially because people have come back and have started saying things like, "Oh, well, the action's good." It's not as good as Fury Road. Nobody said it's better than Fury Road, but they're saying, I mean, it's a fun popcorn movie.
I've heard there's some good performances in there.
Chris Hemsworth apparently steals the show.
I've heard that is the best. I guess did we need a prequel to Furiosa's life? Do we need the backstory? Some people would argue, no, we want a Mad Max story, right? There is a character within the movie that may or may not be, but
no, it's not. It can't be.
Right, it can't be. But that's what I've seen is that more people wanted to go a different direction than follow her early beginnings.
And I understand what George's actually had said on this matter, and it's like he wants to flesh out the world. He wants to tell other stories. It's not just Max's world, right? That's how we entered this world is through Max, who was a police officer, a highway patrolman, who gets caught in this aftermath of a nuclear war fallout and has to survive in the outback when everything's trying to kill him. It's an interesting story, but
Yes.
there is more to the world, and it would be interesting to find out how some of these despots came to power, right? Get into this whole mentality of Lord of the Flies or wherever you wanted to go with it.
I agree. I will say, like, I want more about the rest of the world. However, it's difficult because I think most people of a certain age, when you talk about, George Miller, you talk about this world, who do they think of immediately? Who do you automatically go to? And I know Fury Road, as good as it was, I would dare say people still the association, right? The
Mm-hmm.
association. And so I would say it's tough for a filmmaker to try to break that away and say we're going to do something different. You're still going to get some great action sequences, but we're going to tell a different story of someone else. And really, I guess in the end, Fury Road, Max is in it, and he's a good part, but it's not really a Mad Max story even. I mean, not
It's
to
not.
me.
Yeah, and honestly, love him, hate him, whatever. He's paid his dues. Maybe he's not to you. Who knows? Bring back Mel Gibson and have him play an old man Max storyline, and
Yes.
allow him to pass it off to Tom Hardy or whatever.
Right.
Officially make it canon that Tom Hardy was the kid,
That's
right?
what I really don't understand why that wasn't done, and there's whatever reasons, but you're right. Like, make that canon. He was the kid. Now he's already said it wasn't, so now
Right.
you can't even do that. But I do agree with you. Bring Mel Gibson back. I know that there's people still, here we are 20 whatever years later, that people don't get a second chance obviously in life. I'm not saying he didn't say some horrible stuff. I'm not saying, but like, the
Yeah.
bottom line is, man, you go a certain amount of years and
People gave James Gunn a turnaround in a
oh,
matter of a couple years for the
yes,
horrendously awful things that he said, which, in my opinion, were far worse than what Mel Gibson had said. Even though what Mel
right,
said was terrible,
yes.
what James Gunn was talking about is far worse. And he came back in just a matter of years because they're like, oh well, he can make us money again.
Well, right, and that's the trick. I will say, real quick, yes, y'all, if you're listening or watching, hit the like button if you can. I really appreciate it. Really thank everybody in the comments too for sticking with us and interacting. Man, I'm trying to remember to highlight and bring everybody up too as well. So bear with me, and I'll get better at that week to week to week for sure. But yeah, if you can hit the like button, if you haven't subbed, you like what you hear so far, throw me a sub on here. Obviously, we're going to give out the other criticals like Matthew's Instagram and whatever else ways to reach him. But this is my main way, at least on the Pop Blender channel. So I do thank everybody for joining us, and it's a lot of fun. We still got a little ways to go here. So yeah, I'm with you. I would love to see Mel Gibson in there. Just pass the baton. I do think it's we've heard of the Marvel fatigue, the superhero fatigue. I also think there's just kind of a thing of movie fatigue. In a sense, I'm not saying there's not things that are going to bring that back, and I kind of wanted to go over some of those things. That's what this is leading into, as far as the Furiosa is concerned. That conversation, but I did want to just highlight a couple chats here. One of the favorite things that I like to hear about from Bobby Wold is a gas truck full of women. I can't argue with that. I can't argue with it. I drive across the desert for that too, Bobby. Trust me. Even at my age, I try to run, but that ain't gonna work so well. And then let's see here. I want to say, come on down. There we go. right here. Love you, Todd C. I show up to hit the like and show support, of course. Thank you, man. And that's awesome. And I know hearing people say it over and over all the time, can get very repetitive, obviously. But for anybody new that might be listening on a replay or something like that, it helps sometimes just to give that little nudge. But I don't want to be overbearing with it. What Matthew? Why don't you read this one out here if you want
Yeah,
to?
no, a 3-star. I totally agree with you. George has got some good talent. If he's calling the shots, it can't be too bad, no matter what the focus is. He's incredible at his action stuff. So his action set pieces are always going to be phenomenal. He knows how to do that better than just about anybody, especially with cars, because he's such a gearhead. Uh, you know, eh,
Yeah.
if that's what you want to see, you're going to get some of that in this movie. So
And it's always really good. He's never not once delivered, right?
yeah,
Like I don't think there's been one of these movies where you've watched it and said, "Oh, yeah, these stunts were really not that." I mean, hell, even years ago in Road Warrior, he had a guy that had a motorcycle stunt go horribly wrong. Yes, somersaulting over and over and over. Thankfully, that guy, he survived and ended up recovering. But yeah, it's not for the faint of heart. But those stunts, they look amazing on the screen. But obviously, there's real life consequences involved with making them.
yeah,
And I'd say in the early 1980s, the uh, safety on the movie sets is far less than what it is today.
yeah,
And we can thank the Twilight Zone, the movie, for probably changing all of that. If you don't know, look it up.
yeah,
So
yeah.
anyway, so I want to get into this as we get on our last 30 minutes of the show. Summer box office, man. I have got a page here pulled up that I want to show. We're just going to kind of scroll through, and I want you to tell me, Matthew, if you know about some of these movies, or you've heard about them. If you haven't heard about them, what you're excited for. So we've already got May. These are basically your main big movies that are coming out for the summer of 2024. So we're gonna skip to June. Bad Boys Ride or Die, June 7th.
Yeah, well, and that's a Netflix direct, right? So it's going straight to Netflix, I think.
Yes,
Yep.
it is, and I wish it kind of gave me like I wish they had a box set up, but these days now we have to we have to almost combine this stuff now because of the way
Yeah.
everything is released. Yeah, I kind of looking, I couldn't find anything off the cuff that would just straight up give me, and also if you read, the quick blurb about it, they don't even mention it in this
Yeah.
blurb, which I find fascinating, actually.
Yeah. I've heard about it. I like those two together a lot. Will Smith has to do a lot to rebuild his reputation.
Yeah.
Um, you know, it's on Netflix, so yeah, I will watch it because I watched that ridiculously bad movie that was labeled Roadhouse. It had nothing to do with Roadhouse,
Oh,
but
yeah, 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 yeah. Nah, hey,
I
I
wanted to
mean,
see Conor McGregor be a jerk, and I wasn't disappointed.
right? Um, yeah, and that's let's see here. The
So
Watchers, June 7th. That's the daughter of M. Night Shyamalan.
yeah,
Shyamalan. Um, I don't know a lot
interesting.
about this one here. I have not seen the trailer yet. It's psychological thriller that makes sense considering the apple probably doesn't fall too far from the tree.
Well, if it falls too close to the tree, too, we're gonna end up being disappointed, right? So,
Oh yeah, and that is one thing we can say where George Miller's action scenes do not disappoint. We have been disappointed by M. Night, and
yeah,
hopefully his daughter will not, but we'll find out. Inside Out 2, I think we all have maybe heard a bit about this movie. I saw a preview for it with my son and 3-star draw when we went to the Transformers 40th anniversary
oh yeah,
showing
okay,
at the movie theater. Um, I I saw the first one. I thought it was okay. I'm not. If I catch this, okay, but I'm not going to seek it out.
I have. big concerns with it, considering who's making it, who's putting it out, and what
Yes,
kind of thing
sir.
they're going to do, considering turning red and all that kind of stuff was, and
Yep.
how they're gonna present this. But I have some hope that there's some integrity left there, that in the property, that they're not going to go too anti-parent on it, and you might get a good story out of it. This movie is going to be probably one of the top movies for the summer. Um, that's my prediction at this point. I think there's one that's going to be maybe bigger than that, but in terms of, I mean, Wolverine, Deadpool, obviously, but
Yeah, and
beyond
we're
beyond
yeah,
that,
we're gonna get to that one. We're gonna get that one for sure. A Quiet Place Day One. Obviously, this is it's a prequel to A Quiet Place, and if you like those movies, and I think they're the first one I found good. The second one I was not as enthralled. We'll see with
I
this
have a
one.
feeling this one will bomb horrendously at the movie
I
theater right now.
agree, actually.
Not even if it's a good movie or not. I think it's going to bomb because people were out of the habit of going to the movies. Movies have been so bad, and less people are going to the movies, which is why movies like Fall Guy, which are good, didn't do well, and
Yes,
Furiosa, which people would
right.
probably really like, isn't doing well. And so you have kind of big draw, some kind of spectacle to bring people back into the movie theaters, and the movie theaters are suffering because of the production. This year, it is literally half the movies that came out last year.
Oh yeah, it's I believe it's less than half. I mean, if I remember correctly, and
It is
they
almost exactly half.
well the writer's strike obviously delayed
Yeah.
a lot of productions and pushed a lot of things back, and then now that they've actually come back to work, there's not all these jobs that these writers thought there were going to be.
Yep.
So not only has production been delayed, but it's also moving slower than anticipated, and there's not as many products being made, right?
Yep.
Because of the loss of money, and there's a lot of factors. We will also, moving up, here in the next few weeks, hopefully really do a deep dive, and it may take us a while. We might not just blow through topics. It may take us a while, but I really want to, with you, get into the effects of what streaming has done
Mhm.
with the different companies, the lack of licensing where it used to be, licensing out,
It's
and
huge. Yep.
every company like an NBC, CBS, everybody all of a sudden pulled out, wanted to do their own thing. And I don't want to get into it here, but one day soon I want to get into that, because a lot of people don't really understand all of the ins and outs of all that. They may not really
Yep.
understand what licensing is, at least from that perspective, and what that does for your company,
Yeah.
and short and long term money.
Yep.
And so I want to bring that up with you soon. We'll kind of scroll down the list here a little bit more. In July we've
Di-
got this Despicable Me 4,
I think that's going to be the highest grossing movie of the summer.
and you're probably right.
Po-
It is a kids movie.
but it is a consistent
Consistent,
series. It
right?
has always been consistent. And I think there's so many people that they love the Minions, they love Gru, they love his family. It is such a draw that more than
No
Inside
matter
Out,
what.
because people won't have the same reservations about going to see Despicable Me, because it has
Yes.
been consistent, and the
Yes.
parents are ready just to take their kids to it.
Yes.
So
You're definitely correct, and it is definitely one of those things that I guess probably people can count on. They know what they're in for, and they know it's going to be goofy and all that. But I think that at the same time, like Woody Woody here says that definitely, Matthew, there's shit in there for adults as well. In Despicable Me, if you watch every one of those movies, absolutely, it is one of those ones that does have some adult stuff in it, so it can keep you interested or engaged, as well as your kids, because of the goofiness of the Minions. And so generally those do hold up well, and you may very well be correct. Fly Me to the Moon, whatever.
hey,
Twisters.
no, what? Hey, I want to see that movie.
Well, I'm not saying I don't want to see it, but as far as a box office, I just don't know what this is going to do for any numbers wise. I'm
Well,
not
you know,
saying
it's
it
it's it's
wouldn't
it's probably not a very
wouldn't be
high
good.
budget movie. It's
No,
probably not a very high
but
budget movie, so I think they have potential to make some revenue off of it. And
right.
the premise of it is interesting enough that I want to see it. But
I like the premise. I do like the premise, and for those that don't know, I mean, even you just read the blurb here, if you're just listening, it's Channing Tatum and Scarlett Johansson. They are tasked with filming the moon landing just in case the real thing doesn't go in plan. So I'm assuming this is a period, you know, piece,
yep,
so to speak, right?
yep,
So that could be fun. Don't get me wrong. I'll look at some Scarlett Johansson all day long. But I also think that she has proven that she is a good actress.
yeah,
So, and Channing Tatum has come a long way. I think there's
yep.
some stuff he's been brutal in, like that. What was it? I think it was that Mila Kunis movie where he plays the little
Oh,
rabbit fox looking dude or whatever he is, the alien. I can't remember what the name of it was. That was brutally awful. But I think he's come a long way, and so
yep,
yes, I will definitely watch it. Box office wise, don't know what to expect. I know
yeah.
that Twisters is probably expecting a lot. I
Oh,
don't know.
they're not gonna get it.
No, I think
No.
this movie is going to be a lot like the recent Jurassic Park movies
Mm,
have, even though they've somewhat brought in, you've seen diminishing returns. I think you've seen diminishing quality, and I just
yeah.
don't know how they do this again with
Except
more
for the fact,
tornadoes.
right? Except for the fact that they're twins. That
Yeah,
is the
that's
only
true.
difference. From what
Yeah,
I can tell, it is the exact same plot and exact same story
right.
as the first Twister.
Yeah. So I don't know. I could care less. Now we get to the ooey mama of the summer, right? The zooey mama of the summer. July 26th, Deadpool Wolverine. I'm very interested. I will be going to see this. Um, I what can you say? This is going to be under heavy criticism. It's going to be watched. It's
Yeah,
going to be, and I think, there's going to be a lot of people banking on this being a gigantic hit. However, because of the R rating, it is a limited possibility. It doesn't mean that it won't do very well,
yeah.
but that
What are
does
the
limit
highest
it.
grossing R movies on the list? You know.
Well, we obviously know that the first Deadpool was a huge, huge, huge hit,
So
right?
the top three, right? You've got uh oh, I just lost it. Darn it. Deadpool and Deadpool 2 are on there. But the other one is Joker. That's it.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense,
So
right? That makes
those are the
sense.
top three, and the fourth one I think is Passion of the Christ.
So, which is in a whole different realm as those
Right.
other movies. Um, so, uh, so yeah, so it's possible, and it has been done. I was not crazy about the last Deadpool, even though it did that well. I did love Joker. There were parts of it that I wasn't as crazy about, but overall, I did like that movie, and obviously, it sold very well, even though the mainstream media tried to bury it and tried
Yep.
to make something awful happen with their predicting and reporting
Yep.
at that time.
Yeah, conservative estimates for Deadpool and Wolverine are 700 to 800 million, probably. It would have to really start hitting a good vein for it to make $1 billion.
Yes, I agree. I am looking forward to it though, and I love both those actors. I did want to highlight a few chats here. 3-star draw says big budget Sharknado twisters, maybe. I think we've seen a low budget Sharknado. And then Woody here again. Twister was a great movie. Still love it to this day. I don't think you'll find too many people that disagree with you. Possibly Mav says we need another District 9. I am a District 9 fan. I love that movie for any of its faults and all of its glory. I love it, love it, love
Yeah.
it. Neil Blomkamp, I'm a big fan of his. Twisters looks almost identical to Into the Storm to me. J Astro 319 says. And then I just highlight one more here by Bobby Wold. We need a Jurassic Park / Fast and Furious crossover. A T-Rex is strong, but family is stronger. That is so true. I will put a family of 5 up against a T-Rex no day. Anyway, so moving on, yeah, Deadpool Wolverine. We expect to do big numbers. We'll see. We'll see if
I
all those X-Men fans come out. You
yeah,
know,
I'm curious about the Herald and the Purple Crayon. That has potential to be like an if kind of
yes,
story. And honestly, Zach Levi, I I like most of the stuff he's in. Ever since
I do
he
too.
was in Chuck or whatever else,
Yeah,
I enjoy him.
he's a likable dude. He's got a
Yeah.
likable way about him, right? And in most everything he's been in, he just is affable and looks like he's having fun
Yep.
and that draws people. No matter how Shazam 2 did, I think that he as an actor is
Mhm.
someone that people like to follow. Obviously, we have M. Night Shyamalan with his own movie Trap coming out August 9th. I am not as familiar. It says,
Nope.
dad takes his daughter to pop concert and then finds out a serial killer has been identified. Police are on the way. Uh, and it says, well, this is interesting because they just basically blow the movie for you. He's not worried about being in danger from the killer because he is the killer. Okay, well, I don't need to see that movie. Then we have the Over the Hill Gang starring in Borderlands. It has all your favorite actors that are 50 and above playing characters that should be in their late 20s. And it just did not interest me. The trailer I thought was absolutely terrible, just brutal. Alien Romulus. Now I am interested. I just don't know.
I've
Um,
heard a lot of positive things about it, and the direction they're going and how they're making it and everything. I just don't know how Disney can make an alien movie.
I don't
Um,
either. I don't
so
either.
if there's a bunch of stories that they could tell that would be really interesting. They've written books about it. They've made video games about it. It would be really fascinating to see them explore that aspect of it. Um, but I mean, I want to see it because it's an alien movie, and I love Alien and
I do
aliens
too.
and all that stuff. So
I'm with you all the way, and I will be checking it out. I agree with you. I don't think Disney can make a good alien movie. I wish that we weren't in a world where conglomerates bought up every freaking thing, or companies bought up every production, whether it's video games now that every developer is owned by some large company, and so that dictates what they
yep,
can and can't do. Film is the same way. The creativity and obviously what is that company known for, and we know obviously what Disney's known for, and family movies, and I think it's hard to figure out how they're going to pull this off in a meaningful way.
yeah. The
And
next one
so
on there looks like the most boring thing I've ever heard.
yes, and I would dare say now that Kevin Costner's star does not burn as bright. It almost at this point might be turning into the Hale Bopp Comet. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I just don't know that he's going to draw anybody in. I know the Yellowstone show was
Well, but I
fantastic
mean,
for a lot of people.
it says this is part two.
Yeah.
What
Where was
where was
part
part
one?
one?
Yeah, I missed that part. Um, had it said part one,
What was that?
I
Was that
still wouldn't have
earlier?
paid attention.
Wait a minute.
No,
Was that scrolled up? Was that back in June?
no, not that I'm aware of. I'll go all
Okay.
the way up. I don't see it.
The,
Oh,
the,
no,
the,
there it is. There it is. We
so
missed it.
it's a 6-hour movie that
What
they
the
decided
hell?
to split into two parts and release in the same year.
Oh Lord. Yeah, this has disaster written all over it. This has losing a lot of money.
Yeah, I don't know what they're thinking. What
Yeah.
kind of gimmick they think that they're pulling off
I
with
mean,
this?
you're basically pushing this thing just 2 months from the, part one, June 28th, and then you're going to August 16th,
I mean, it's
which
almost as bad as
actually,
Rebel Moon Part 1 and 2 on Netflix.
yeah, yeah, and also too, I mean, come on, Kevin, how do you release a movie on Elvis's death day? Get out of here, man. I got no time for you. Get out of here. All right. Reagan, August 30th. We have Dennis Quaid as President Ronald Reagan in a biopic
You know
from
how
the
terrible they
director
make
of
those biopics?
Soul Surfer. Yes, and Soul Surfer was brutal. And wasn't Dennis Quaid in Soul Surfer? I think he played the dad, if I'm not mistaken.
I have no
Ah,
idea.
jeez Louise. All right. So look, we got about 10 minutes left, you crazy kids out there in chat world. I want to kind of have us maybe a couple of things here to bang out here at the end. I do want to again mention that thank you for everybody that's been in the chat and tuning in, and that will tune in possibly tomorrow. I did one comment here from 3-Star Draw. Did y'all mention Axel F yet? The Beverly Hills Cop 4. I do not have faith in any Eddie Murphy movie since the last 25 years or more. So I don't know. Coming to America 2, I actually turned it off. I was
Yeah,
not, I
that was a
wasn't
hard
feeling
watch.
it.
That was a hard
I was
watch.
not feeling it at all. I wish I could say that I was, but no, I did not enjoy that at all. It was not
I
very
was
funny.
hopeful that he's coming back. He's got something he wants to say. He's got something he wants to do. But no, that was terrible. It was so bad.
Yeah. No, not so much. So I want to finish up and Matthew, I want to make sure that you had a chance to I'm going to send something to you in private chat real quick if you can keep your eyes open. Let's see. Well, if
But
I can
yeah, I mean
actually type, it helps to be able to type.
the box office looks a little grim. Um, there's not a
It
lot
does
coming
look
out.
a
There's
little grim.
not a lot that everybody wants to go out and see. And there's no great big draws to bring people out except for Deadpool, Wolverine. That's about like the biggest draw. Everything else is got these little niche things, and that's okay. Movies are meant to be niche, and they're supposed to be made on the somewhat cheap. They're not supposed to be big budget movies. um so
Yes. Well, and I think, ultimately the reason why I wanted to highlight the summer box office is because at the end of the day, we've seen the production really slow down. We know that we have half the slate of movies coming out. There's been a lot of things that have been pushed back that are going to, moving forward, get canceled. And so yeah, I mean, I think um, we're in for a really rough ride, I think, when it comes to movies, regardless whether that's streaming or on the big screen. I think we're going to be in a rough ride here over the next couple of years, and I think the movie companies are going to be struggling and trying to evolve out of some of the things we've seen, kind of pushed narratives we've pushed, movies that have been, things that have been made, and maybe in a couple years we'll start to move into the next thing, next generation, and we'll start getting more creativity back, some more originality, and not as many sequels and prequels and things of that, reboots and things of that nature. I'm really hoping that. 3-Star Draw says, but are we getting a hooded Cobra Commander? I'm gonna say I doubt it. I'm gonna say I doubt it. Okay, so to end this stream, I figured it'd be fun just to give out a couple of suggestions on something for you guys to watch that you may or may not know. If you do, great. For those that maybe don't, I pulled out a couple things that I wanted to say. So I'll let you take the floor, Matthew. If you've got a couple recommendations that you want to tell people about.
Well, I mean, you'll see a common theme to what I'm going to say here. There's three shows that we've liked. Sometimes they start out rough or whatever, but they've been fun to watch, and we've enjoyed them. And that's Resident Alien with Alan Tudyk. I've liked that show up to this point. They pulled in Linda Hamilton in the last couple seasons, and it's been interesting. What they're doing, it's about an alien who crash lands on Earth, and he's supposed to destroy Earth, but then he spends time as a human to hide, and he becomes more and more human as the show goes on. He has to stop the annihilation of Earth, and that's kind of what they're doing. It's really interesting because Resident Alien, he's just out of his element with everything, and it's perfect for Alan Tudyk. I've liked the Rookie. It's about a 42-year-old guy who becomes a police officer, Nathan Fillion.
Oh yeah.
You see my theme here, right?
Yep. Yep.
And I really loved him on Castle, and despite the last season of Castle, when that hatred between the co-star and him really came to the surface, which I don't understand how you could hate Nathan Fillion. He seemed, every time I've met him or engaged with him, he's always been super awesome, in the way he loves the fans. And the way he interacts with people, I just love it. So I like supporting him and things. And that TV show is pretty darn good. And then the last one is Joel McHale, and Animal Control.
Okay, I was hoping you'd say that one.
So that one's been fun. We missed the first season, but we went back and we got caught up on it on streaming services, and then we're caught up with it currently. It's dumb fun, and I really do like Joel McHale from his Community days. I'm a little biased. I was a community college professor when that was on, and I busted out laughing every episode.
Well, I can't wait to actually check that out. I heard good things about it. I do like him as well. I've liked him for a long time. Long time. He's been around a while, longer than you think, right? When you actually look into it.
Yep.
And so yes, and you had actually texted me about Resident Alien. You texted me about Animal Control as well. And I love some Nathan Fillion. It's too bad we did not get him in the Nathan Drake. I think it would have done gangbusters with people who were actually familiar with the franchise instead of getting Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg.
He just didn't fit that. Tom didn't fit that role.
Right. And if you ever get a chance, and this is not one of my recommendations, but for anybody still listening, I will tell you, if you get a chance, look up the Nathan Fillion fan-made movie, his own made movie. He spent his own money making a Drake's Fortune movie short. It is freaking awesome. Very, very awesome. Couple comments before I give mine. We see, and I forgot to mention also too, Jay Astro. Let's see. My bad, man. I wanted to highlight this now that we've had a few of them fly. Oh, okay. Well, he was just saying Betty by time for hitting the road or whatever. So I appreciate it, Jay Astro. My apologies. And then real quick, let me get rid of this. Thank God, man, running a stream. It's like doing a marathon, man. Real quick. Yes.
Can't forget Talk Soup.
100% Woody, Talk Soup. And you actually took the words out of my mouth. That's exactly what I was thinking of earlier when I was like, man, I've liked him for such a long time. Talk Soup. That definitely was where it was at. I loved it when he was on there. And when he left, it was not the same. Right. That's for sure. Okay. So I have a couple. I'm going to share one screen. I won't share the other because you guys may have seen it or maybe not seen it. But I'll share this real quick. I discovered this actually a while back, but for people who haven't seen it, on YouTube, there's a channel called The Bat Feed. And this is one of the coolest things that I've seen. Now, this guy kind of does it like documentary style, but it's the Gotham 1919 to 1939. This is such a cool kind of series this guy does where he makes these Batman rogues gallery and even Batman, but it's like from this time period. And it's done really well. It's gotten better and better as he's gone over, done it. Um, and you see the picture of Killer Croc there and Hush. He makes them look like gangsters. Joker has got the really elongated face. And Anarchy here. I just think it's a really cool channel. It's fun to just kick it on, leave it on while you're doing something on your computer or whatever, and then glance over every now and then when you see like a super cool picture or whatever. But the Bat Feed, I love some Batman. I've got several graphic novels, and love the Arkham games and several of the comics and Dark Knight and all that stuff. So love it, love this. The other thing is, if you hadn't seen it, it's on Netflix. It's Cyberpunk Edge Runners. I absolutely loved that show, and it came out after all the Cyberpunk video game, the 2077 fiasco and everything, and I think a lot of that calmed down because it's such a horrible release of the game. But Cyberpunk Edge Runners animation, it's an animated series. It is not shy. It is not for children per se, small children. But I thought it was really done very, very well. And I think it's funny, it's serious, it's got some great visuals. But if you haven't checked that out, I would definitely recommend that. So Cyberpunk Edge Runners, a quick watch, you can bang through it pretty fast, man. And I think it's a lot of fun actually. And nice. I think it's Cyberpunk done right.
Right. I bet I gotta check it out because Ghost in the Shell is one of my favorite, and that's the best Cyberpunk thing, man, I've ever seen.
Yeah. And this, and I think this hits on a different kind of thing, but it really I just thought they did a fantastic job. And if you do like Cyberpunk and you love that world, it's got some really fun stuff, some fun episodes, and some great characters. Actually, there's good drama there, good arc. So those are my couple. We'll maybe bring back another time with these. But Matthew, it's always fun. Yeah, man, I appreciate it, and we'll just keep on growing it, dude. It's always fun spending some time with you and getting your thoughts. And we'll be back next week at 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern time. Go
check out Punk's Ramen Racer video.
Yes,
it dropped a little while back, so go check that one out after you're done here. Good night, guys.
Give everybody real quick where they can find you, man, and what you got coming up the next couple days.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram every day. I'm making posts. So, I did my Memorial Day post and my Monday's post, and Tuesdays is Turtle Tuesdays, and tomorrow is an outdoor G.I. Joe shoot theme. Then we've got an X-Men themed and a superheroes themed, and back to Snake Eyes. My Snake Eyes Saturday picture is going to be, I think everybody's going to like it. So keep your eyes out on that one. 9 a.m. on Saturday morning, 9 a.m. CST.
And then Thursday night,
Spaceballs with Punks on Film, talking about Spaceballs to wrap up the Power of the Force month as we dive into the original Star Wars, according to Mr. Wonderful.
Yeah, buddy. I love it. Well, cool, man. You can find me at Pop Blender at Pop Space Blender, and then do channel search till I get some more stuff out there. Hopefully it'll be easier to find, load up in your feed. And so that's main way to find me for right now. And so that's about it, man. I really appreciate everybody hanging out. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much. It's a great fellowship. We'll keep it rolling, baby. And this time, instead of playing the outro, I'm just going to cut the camera off. Y'all have a good night, and we will see y'all next week. Take care.